Hey friends, and welcome back to the Rebel Show. Hope you're doing well. We are doing well here on another snowy Colorado day. You know, I've been enjoying doing the Rebel Show. I've been doing it a little less lately because life is a little crazier when you have a toddler, which is quite fun. So you want to spend a little more time with her. So we've been doing a few less shows for now. We'll see how that goes, but it's been good. I've been enjoying this. So I hope you guys are too. We're about to revamp the show a little bit. You'll hopefully be seeing that in the next few episodes. So look for something fresh. So last week we talked about heart control and how a lot of the issues that come in the world come from just bad intents of the heart or lusts of the heart. And another control I want to talk about is something we've talked about a lot. It's a big deal, and it's a big deal with the candidates running for president right now is gun control. Like, they literally want to confiscate weapons because they think it'll make crime less, or I don't think that's the case. There's a lot of studies that show that there's a lot of research that shows that the more guns you have, the less crime there is. So, where we see gun control right now is in the big inner cities where there's tons of crime. There's tons of shootings all the time. And these are the most gun controlled zones, and most mass shootings happen in gun free zones. And a lot of us average people know that to be true. And we go, why are these politicians pushing this so much? So, every time there's a shooting almost anywhere, government officials always want more gun control, and they blame Republicans for not getting it through, or they blame the NRA. And it seems though the laws they want to pass will only affect the law-abiding citizens and does nothing to stop active killers or criminals. So if you have an AR-15 or something and you ban a certain kind of magazine, how does that stop a criminal from doing anything? The good people are the ones that always suffer the most from most laws, actually. Good people, law-abiding citizens suffer the most, because if you're going to be a criminal, you're going to do it anyway, whether there's a law or not. And if that were not true, then why are there still drugs out there? If you ban heroin, why is it still out there, So would a gun-free society make anyone safer? I think no. I think it's a God-given right to protect ourselves. And at this point in time, guns are the best option. There was a time there wasn't a gun, and they had swords. And before that, who knows? They might have carved spears out of tree branches or something. Whatever the technology was at the time is basically what you want to use. And right now, the best technology is guns. The government officials, guards, and military are not the only people that should have weapons. That's just not a good logic at all. That's not what the Second Amendment's talking about. People could not defend themselves and could easily be pressured to do almost anything if guns are gone. You could take over. That's why a lot of dictators build their own military. They disarm the population, build up their own military that listens to them, the dictator, not any government or any Congress or anything like that. And they just take over nations. And lots of times people die, people starve. Excuse me. God gave us the right to defend ourselves. And our government servants have sworn an oath to protect the right, not to take them away from us. That's what government's supposed to do, is protect our rights, protect the Constitution. And more and more, they want to just get rid of the Constitution. They want to shred it. And then they say that they're defending the Constitution while shredding it. They hold it up and they're shredding it at the same time while they pretend to defend it. And it's crazy. And that's why it's important to know what's in the Constitution. Because if you don't, it's easy to be misled and misunderstood, And for one, in order for our freedoms to stay, we need to make sure we're voting, and we need to make sure we're voting for people that have the closest to our belief system. Hopefully, I'm talking to people that are believing in God. If not, that's fine. But we believe that God gave us these rights, and they're intended to protect our freedoms. We must hold these people accountable and vote them out. And I say write and call them, and let our voices be heard before it's too late. Because at some point, once it's too late, there's nothing you can do. You're just a slave to society, and we don't want that. And I write my senators all the time. and give my opinions. And sometimes they write back. And it only takes a few calls or emails to scare an elected official. I think it's somewhere around the number of like 15 emails or calls. That's not very much. Just if every member of your family and your friend's family, I mean, that's enough to make an official go, ooh, I better heed to them. And that's not always true, but in a lot of cases, since nobody ever calls or nobody ever emails, just a few people doing it make a big difference. So take that into effect. Take that into your thoughts when you hear something you don't like, email these people. Most people have a website where you can just a couple clicks, and a few seconds later, you can easily type out a message and send it to them. It's super easy. I do it all the time. I think if we really want to reduce mass shootings, we must face the real issue and not try to band-aid the symptom. The problem is not guns or weapons of any type. The problem isn't the gun or the weapon. They're just objects made of plastic and metal, right? The problem is the people who are selfish and who want to take from others. And this is just kind of a continuation of what I talked about last week. It's the hearts of the people that got hurt or have some mental issue or have been blackmailed or brainwashed or whatever, and they go out and they commit these crimes. It's not just the average guy going, hey, I got a gun, let's go shoot some people. It's not the case. Most people are law-abiding citizens, especially concealed carry people, and it seems like a lot of politicians, especially on one side, basically act like every gun owner is a potential mass shooter. And so we got to stop everybody by removing guns, and that's just stupid. We just need to get these people out of there. Law-abiding citizens do not need to be punished for the actions of lunatics. And that's what they are. They're lunatics. Anybody who would go out and do that is crazy. Cities with the most gun control have the most shootings and crime, like I mentioned a minute ago. It's true. Look at the inner cities. Do research on these big inner cities. A lot of them are ghettos. They have a lot of gangs. And gang members typically don't pass background checks, I'm guessing. So they're getting them off the black market or illegally, and they're just going to war with each other. That's basically what's happening, and it affects the black population in these inner cities. Minority groups suffer the most from gun control laws. I read in a study, there's a difference between a gun owner and a criminal. Now, politicians may not believe that. They think they're one and the same. A gun owner is just a criminal waiting. They're just waiting for the crime to happen. That's stupid. Most of these crime-ridden cities are run by Democrats, and who's surprised by this? That there are no guns allowed in the modern plantation. And I call it the modern plantation because I think that these inner cities are kind of like a place where these politicians enslave a community. A lot of these inner cities, I've talked about this on other shows, they run off all the jobs, all the businesses go away, and the community basically is just forced to live on welfare. And a lot of times the men are forced to go into gangs and stuff like that. I mean, it's a terrible situation. We need to get this problem solved. So it's kind of like a modern plantation where these people are just enslaved and they can't get out. They're stuck. If politicians keep people poor and desperate, they can keep them dependent on them. And I think that's kind of the goal, is to make people dependent on the government. And for strong Americans who lived a free life so far in the United States, that is the worst possible option. I think there's more of us than there are of them. More people that want to be free than people that are ready to step into slavery or step into dependency on government. I think more guns, less crime. There's a book by John Lott with the same title, and it's got some great research in it. I recommend it. It's a little bit of a harder read because it's like reading a research paper, so it's not, you just got to take your time. But more guns would be less crime because the criminal wouldn't know who's armed, right? So if he's trying to go out and rob somebody, he's going to potentially have a rude awakening. If more people were armed and had concealed carry, potential robbers, murderers, etc., would be hesitant because they wouldn't know who's armed. And that's the point. They have a natural fear of people because they don't know who could defend themselves. That's the point. The goal is to stop attackers before they act, right? How do you stop an attacker before they act if you have a sign out front saying this is a gun-free zone? No, that's like inviting it in. It's very easy logic, I feel like. Harsher punishments for gun crimes would help. We can't just let them off with a smack on the wrist. Gun crimes, legitimate gun crimes, not a guy who's breaking into your house so you shot him and now you're facing charges. That's not a gun crime. That's self-defense. But real gun crimes should have harsh penalties. And it should be obvious. Gun control is about stopping gun crime. Oh, gun control is not about stopping gun crime. It's really about disarming Americans. And that's the point, When, like, you see it in tons of other countries where they disarm the people and then they took over the nation and then they killed off the people they don't like. I mean, it gets crazy. Anti-gun lobbyists, organizations, and politicians will nickel and dime away our freedoms until they can take over the country. So we got to be careful when we allow these little laws to pass, because the progressive movement is a movement that always moves forward. No matter where you get to, there's no end to it ever. So you got to be really careful. And I'm really running out of time. So I may have to make this 2 episodes. But it's important to realize without arms, we're at the mercy of whatever happens. Like in Venezuela and the terrible things that are happening there. I've seen videos of the military vehicles driving into crowds and running over people because these people allowed their government to take over and remove their weapons, and now they can't defend themselves and they're at the mercy of whatever. And we don't want that in America. We need to stand and fight, and we need to make our voices heard. And you can do it through email nowadays. And there's apps out there that you can send a video message to politicians. It's so simple, and I encourage everybody to take this to heart and talk to your neighbors and buy more ammo, So I hope this was helpful and hope this was fun. And thank you very much.